Welcome to the first lesson in Chapter 9, 9.1, Metric Units of Measurement. This might be a review for some of you, but I want us to make sure we're going through this, taking our time, and becoming masters with the metric unit system. All right, so first of all, in your vocabulary, you have the metric system. The metric system is a system of measurement that uses decimals. So when you look at your rulers, you will see that it says either cm for centimeters on it, or some of them will say mm for millimeters. When you measure with millimeters and centimeters, or any unit in the metric system for that matter, it's really nice because you can write everything as a decimal because the metric system is a base 10 system. Okay, whereas with inches, it is not a base 10 system. So if you measure something that is 15 millimeters, it's the same thing as saying 1 5/10 centimeters. When we do conversions in the next chapter, you'll see that it's a lot easier with the metric system than it is with the customary system. You can put this in for your example. Okay. In your notes, you have this as well. We're going to go over the abbreviations for each of these, and we're going to go over the benchmark. The benchmark is something that you can use from everyday life that shows you just about what the size of any of these would be. So first of all, we have millimeter. The abbreviation is lowercase m, lowercase m. The capitalization or lowercase of the letters is very important. If you capitalize the letter, it changes what it stands for. So make sure that you're using capital letters when you need to and lowercase when you're supposed to. The benchmark for a millimeter is the thickness of a dime. So if you were to take a dime and turn it to its side and see how thick it is from one side to the other, that is about what a millimeter is. Okay, so not from side to side, but this edge right here would be considered the thickness of the dime. Centimeter is cm. Its benchmark is half the width of a penny. So from the edge to the middle of a penny, that right there is about a centimeter. A meter. Meter is a lowercase m. Its benchmark is the width of a doorway. Okay, I want you to be careful here. It's not the actual door itself, because remember, in order to fit the doorway has to be a little bit bigger. So when you walk into the classroom tomorrow, take a look at how wide the door is, and that's about 1 meter. And a kilometer. Kilometer is km, and the benchmark is about 6 city blocks. All right, when you're reading a metric ruler, all these little things on the inside, all these little dashes, these are all millimeters. And then when you get to the numbers, that's a centimeter. Okay, so if you count, this is 1 millimeter, 2 millimeters, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Once you get to 10, you get to 1 centimeter because there are 10 millimeters in 1 centimeter. Okay, so that's why sometimes when you look at your ruler, it says millimeters, but it still has these big numbers here. It's still measuring in centimeters, but each of these small ones is a millimeter. So just for a little bit of practice, what we're going to do, because we know 10 millimeters equals 1 centimeter, okay, we're going to take a look at this pencil. Remember, when you're lining up your ruler, you have to line up the 0, not the edge of the ruler, the 0 with the edge of your object. So in this case, 0 is lined up with the eraser. We count, we see that it is 12 centimeters. And then if we go down from the tip of the pencil, we see that it is about 12 and 1, 2, 3, 4 tenths. So it's 12 centimeters and then 4 out of the 10 centimeters that you need, or millimeters that you need to make a full centimeter. So we write this as 12 and 4/10 centimeters. If you wanted this to be millimeters, what you would do is you would take your decimal and you would move it one place to the right. Okay, so if each of these were tenths, this is 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, 110, 120, 121, 22, 23, 24. So 124 millimeters. So you'll notice our numbers are the same. Their decimal position is different. So here we go. The next thing we're going to do is we are going to work with units of mass. Units of mass measure the amount of matter in an object. Okay, this is a little bit different than weight because weight brings in gravity. Mass does not involve gravity. So a milligram, the abbreviation for milligram, is mg. You'll notice that anything with milli in front always has that lowercase m, and then it has the first letter of the base unit. In this case, the base unit is gram. So we have the little m, little g. Benchmark is a grain of salt. A grain of salt is about 1 milligram. Gram is just a lowercase g. And a small paper clip has the mass of about a gram. Now remember, these aren't exact, but they are close. Okay, they give us something to approximate with. And a kilogram. Kilogram, kg. In your textbook, your math textbook, is about 1 kilogram. And next we have capacity. We talked about in the customer unit that capacity is the measure of the amount of space an object contains. The easier way to say this, capacity is how much can something hold. Okay, so for milliliter you have a little m and a capital L. So liters are always abbreviated with a capital L, not a lowercase l. An eyedropper, okay, sometimes you see this in medications for little children, eyedroppers if you have to put drops in your eyes. The liquid that fits inside of that eyedropper is about 1 milliliter. A liter is about the size of a small pitcher. So in the summertime, if you make iced tea or Kool-Aid or any type of juice or lemonade, it goes into a pitcher, and those pitchers are about 1 liter. And last but not least, we have kiloliters. 1 kiloliter is about the size of 5 bathtubs. It's a lot of water. Now, these units that I've given you are the units that we'll be working with. There are many other metric units, but these are the ones we'll be focusing on. So you'll notice that for length, we're working with millimeter, centimeter, meter, kilometer. This is the only place where you'll see centi show up. We don't work with centigrams, we don't work with centiliters. These are the only units you'll be working with for each type of measurement for this chapter. All right, so when you're thinking about, well, what unit of measurement should I use to measure this in, there's a couple of things you have to decide first. First, you need to decide what type of measurement. Am I measuring how long? So I would use meters. Am I measuring how heavy? So I would use grams. Or am I measuring how much can it hold? So I would use liters. Once you've figured that out, you need to select a unit that is the largest unit for that type. Okay. If the object is too big to use, on that. So if the object is too small and your unit is too big, you need to move to the next smallest. And you continue until you find a unit that's just right for your object. This is a little confusing, so we'll try one together. All right, so what unit would be appropriate to use when measuring the mass of a tennis ball? First, what type of measurement are we using? Mass, because we're deciding how heavy. So because we're using mass, we have to decide what base unit are we using, grams, liters, or meters. In this case, we use grams. So now that we've decided that we're going to use the base unit of grams, I have to start with my biggest unit, which is kilograms. The benchmark for kilograms is a textbook. Would I want to use a textbook to measure how heavy a tennis ball is? Since a textbook is going to be heavier than a tennis ball, that's not going to help you find the mass of that tennis ball. Okay, so it's too big. So now we have to look at the next smallest. The next smallest in this case is grams. For a gram, the benchmark is a paper clip. Could I use paper clips to find the mass of a tennis ball? One paper clip isn't going to equal the mass of a tennis ball, but I can use several of them to get up to the mass of a tennis ball. So just because a unit might be smaller, you're not going to find anything that matches exactly. You want to find something that you can either use a lot of or use one of to find the mass. If it's too big, you're not going to be able to find the mass or the distance or the capacity. So in this case, the paper clip is just right. So we would measure the mass of a tennis ball, not in paper clips, but in grams. So what I want you to do, you have this problem. What metric unit would you use to measure the juice in 2 raspberries? I want you to fill this out in your notes. Okay, it looks like this. You have to tell me, what are you going to start with? What's the benchmark? Is it too big, too small, or just right? And then you have to go to the end and figure out which unit of measurement you would use. When you come back, we will go over your answer. All right, so for the type, we are working with capacity. And since we're working with capacity, we have to use the base unit of liters. If you start with kiloliters, that's 5 bathtubs. I don't think that if you squeeze the juice out of 2 raspberries that you're going to be able to fill 5 bathtubs, so that was too big. Liters has the benchmark of a pitcher. I don't think, again, if you were to squeeze the juice out of 2 raspberries that you would be able to fill a pitcher. The last one that we have to use is milliliters. This is the amount of liquid that you would find in an eyedropper, which would be just right for figuring out how many milliliters or how much liquid a raspberry contains. Again, it might not be perfect or exact, but it is a start and allows us to measure how much can fit inside those raspberries. All right, so for your homework tonight, what I want you to do is I want you to solve each of these problems. This is in your notes on the next page. And what I would like you to do, we will number these. So this will be number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, number 6, number 7, and number 8. I know this looks like a lot, but all you're doing is you're deciding what is the best unit of measurement to use to find each of these. So what's the best unit of measurement to find the depth of the ocean? Yes, you can use abbreviations, but make sure that you put down the correct ones and you use the correct uppercase or lowercase forms. Make sure to post this on Edmodo, and if you have any questions, please make sure to post them or come with them tomorrow.